When worlds collide, you can run,
but no can hide.
Hi everyone, it's Shar and welcome back to my channel. Okay, first of all, I will fully acknowledge that it has been a while and my scheduling is a little bit off. I have been struggling mentally, as you all know, and I actually took a break off of social media. I'm still on my break. I will be off of social media for a month, and I was getting back into the groove of recording videos. Yes, it's another creative sim, but I am just in a creative sim mood, although I promise 100B challenge will be coming up soon and a couple of speed builds and things like that will slowly transition back into normality. But today we have a slightly different video because I wanted to record, or rather create, my avatar for the Magical Readathon, hence the reference earlier on when worlds collide. This is me being my full nerdy self, and I feel like it's more fun because of the way this readathon is formatted. It is 1 month to start with, but it continues on, and you essentially explore this massive fantastical fantasy world. It's created by the Book Rose. I will have either in the little eye icon in this video or in the description a link to the video if you are also a reader and you want to participate in the Magical Readathon. This first round goes until September 22nd, and because the whole idea behind it is world exploration, you discovering this world and unlocking new elements of it through your reading, I thought it would be really fun to have an avatar.
It's a geek thing.
So this is my avatar for the Magical Readathon. You'll learn more about her in a moment. Essentially, as we read, we're doing the novice path, right? And the novice path is about proving that you can move to the next level. It's pretty easy. You only have to do 2 of the 7 challenges, but I'm super excited for it. The entrance to the novice path is to read a book with a map. I had 2 options for that. I had Raybearer or I had Six of Crows. I have DNF Six of Crows 3 different times. I am still not in the mood to read that. Maybe I just don't like heists in general, but Raybearer is a really cool story I've been hearing amazing things about, and I believe it is written by a Black author, so that is going to be absolutely fantastic to read. And then the next one I'm thinking I'm going to do is either to do the Ruin of the Sky, which is to read a book featuring ghost or a haunted house or other supernatural elements, because of course we are in spooky season. This is kind of like my September TBR, even though we're halfway through September. My reading has been pretty slow this month. So I'm thinking that one to do Ruin the Sky, and that would just be the 2 that I would have to do at minimum, right? Book with the map, and then another challenge. And then the other one I was thinking about doing is, I think it's, which one is it? A standalone or a book that keeps tempting you, something along those lines. There's a lot of room for you to essentially do what you want with this readathon. It is a magical readathon, and the fun is exploring the world, but the creator of the challenge did give you a lot of room to really kind of read what you want and let it fit the challenge. And then the character creation, however, is going to go until April 2022. So I would have until next year to complete my character. So things that you're seeing her and come together is things that she will develop as I continue to read. For example, she's a wildling, which means that she was born and raised in a very rural, natural setting. So I have to read a book largely set in a forest outside to make that part of her background. And then she is from Eartheria, I believe that's how you say it. I could be wrong. These are made up words, but I think I'm right in that, but I could be wrong. And that is to read a book that features fae or elven characters. Of course, I could read ACOTAR, but I don't have an interest in reading ACOTAR. It gives me Twilight vibes, and I am past that age in my life. So I think I'm going to read A Deal with the Elf King, because I love myself a villain, a dark hair villain, an arranged marriage trope, a badass female, and it's smutty, so that's going to be really fun for me to read, and that will create my character's initial background, where she's from. You're seeing her now. This is Nylah. I'm creating her disguise. I made her an alien because the map and the world kind of seemed alien-like to me. She could be a spellcaster, but I don't think spellcasters get a disguise, and I wanted her to have 2 very distinct looks. One that's more magical in nature and one that she puts on that hides herself, but you can see her lips always have a pattern on it, and that's what gives her away. And then also when I put her eyes on, they're very unnatural. It's like a pink purple, but if you look very close, it has a lot of colors and it's very like galaxy-like. So she is from Etheria, but she also then moved to Carador because Carador is a world within this magical readathon that has a lot of magic. It was impacted by this asteroid meteor thing that came in. It's not the most magical aspect of this world, but it is second to Illyrium, which I think is the main one that we're trying to aim for. So she moves to Carador, which means I need to read a book from an ongoing series. This is the continuation of her stories. I typically read standalones. I don't read a lot of series, so that's going to be a challenge for me, but that's okay. I have some time to do that. And then her heritage is that she is an earthling, which is why you see the purple and the wings for her. Her element is air. She has elemental magic. This is her natural territory. She is very good with air magic. So you can see little nods to that with the coloring, and in her alien form, she has these purple leopard spots on her face. That's a nod to her heritage. It is something that she's supposed to develop, and the reason it's purple is because she's air, and the reason she has wings is because she's air. In her human form, she can, it's not human. In her disguise, she can hide her wings, but she has tattoos on her back where her wings are. So the disguise really is just to fool at a quick glance. You can see what I mean though when I say her eyes are very unnatural. It's not a color that any human would have. So she is an earthling, which means I have to read a book with elemental magic or an element word in the book or series, like air, fire, earth, or water. Now, I already read The Rise of Kyoshi and The Shadow of Kyoshi and so many of the Avatar books. That would have been an easy one to accomplish, but I'm not going to cheat. There's no double dipping. I read this way before the challenge even started, so I'll find another book with some kind of elemental magic. If you are a reader and you know a book that has elemental magic or a book that has the word air in it, let me know so I can read that and we can continue on our character's path. So I'm really excited for this. It's going to be super fun, and it's just unique to any challenge that I've done. Right before this, I just finished the 1000 Doors weekend edition of the challenge, of Readathon challenge. That was also really fun. It's just a fun way to add something to the mix of kind of what you're reading and make it feel more like a community. It just makes it a lot more fun. This is me fully nerding out at the moment, but for that readathon, I read Girl Serpent Thorn to start with. I like that, but I felt like it wasn't as developed as it could have been. It was supposed to be a Beauty and the Beast and Sleeping Beauty retelling. I definitely got the Beauty and the Beast aspect, but then the character falls in love with this other girl, which is fantastic. I actually thought that was her main love interest to start with, but she's only in the book for like 5 seconds, so we really barely get to see her, so their relationship feels very, very insta-love. So I wish that was more developed, but I still really enjoyed it. I gave it like 4 stars overall. If I was reflecting back on it, I might say it's like a 3.75, but somewhere around there. It was an enjoyable read. And then from there, my next challenge, I read Wilder Girls to start with. I just didn't like it. I'm not in the mood. I am a mood reader very much. I know I'm not in the mood to read a certain story that I'm not going to, because it's going to ruin my enjoyment of said story. So instead, I read... What did I read? I read Kill Creek, and that was also just not in the mood. Like, very much those TikToks that you see that's like, tell me this book was written by a man without telling me this book was written by a man. That's what that book was. So DNF'd it, although I will come back. I rarely ever DNF a story and never ever come back to it. It has to be really horrendous for me to do that. So instead, I read... A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, because it was Megan's prompt, and that was fucking scary. My heart is going pitter patter, pitter patter. So I read that, and that was really, really good. Although I'm surprised I don't see this as often as I should. It very much has a Pretty Little Liars vibe and aesthetic to it, and the author herself, Holly Black, puts in little nods to Pretty Little Liars and like subtle jokes. So I'm like, okay, it was still really fun. It was still really interesting. I definitely enjoyed it, and no spoilers. I liked where it went in the end. And then from there, I got Tasman's prompt, and their prompt was to get something from like an inspiration from In the Heights, which I've never seen, but I grew up around Washington Heights, so it was very familiar to me. So I said, okay, great. In the Heights, Latinx community, I want to read a book about Dominican people. So I read Elizabeth Acevedo's book, Clap When You Land, and I really, really love that. I am Dominican myself. I grew up in a very similar area to the character. In fact, I could probably see this character's neighborhood down the block from me. They were very close. And it was just a really fantastic book, and I related to it so much. And the main characters, there's two, they find out that their father essentially was leading different lives, and he had two different daughters, two different wives, and they didn't know about each other. The kids didn't know about each other. And relatable, my father did something very similar. So I just felt like I was reading a variation of my own story. Obviously not the same at all, but there were so many things that I could relate to. I read With the Fire on High earlier this year, and I'll tell you, I really liked Clap When You Land a lot more. I still have not read The Poet X, but Elizabeth Acevedo is just an absolutely beautiful writer, and I love the Latinx representation and how she talks about culture in her books. So that was really fun for me. So back to our character, Nylah. We already know what my TBR is, so we can develop Nylah as a person, as a character. It would be so fun if I could play along in The Sims and have like a separate Let's Play, so that what is going on in her life as I read is mirrored in The Sims. But there would be limitations because the challenge seems very high fantasy to me, and there's only so many magical things that I could do in The Sims 4. To start with, basic limitation, Nylah can't fly. She has these big, beautiful, magical wings, but in The Sims 4, she cannot fly. That is not an animation that exists in the game, but it would be so fun to do that. So I try to like differentiate her personality here, because Nylah definitely is an earthling. But her air element definitely plays a part of her personality, and my girl's a villain. I told you I love a villain. She's out here to conquer the world, so she shows that in her personality and just how she dresses, and she dresses how she feels confident. Definitely everything's a power move to her, and I freaking love her. I can't wait to discover more about her as I continue to read. Without a doubt, she will be influenced by the things that I do read, but yeah, it's just been so fun to get back into reading in this capacity, to continue to explore myself and my life. We don't have time to go over it in this episode, but in the previous episode, I spoke about what it's like to date as a virgin in your 20s, and I want to continue in that series just because it's something that is considered so taboo, quote unquote. It's not spoken about. People are often ashamed about it. They feel embarrassed, and I don't want that to be the case. I want it to be a friendly space where you and I can chit chat, talk about everything, talk about my own experiences, and these episodes quote unquote are going to be spaces for me to explore. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'm going to see you in my next one. Bye everyone.